Rachel, get it together. Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited you're here. It is currently like 5 p.m. so basically it feels like midnight. Please subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. It truly does. I realized to create your own personal URL for your channel, you have to have 100 subscribers at least. So that's really all I need. Otherwise, someone with the exact same name as me is gonna steal it before I can get there. Just kidding. No one has the exact same name as you. If you have the exact same name as me by any chance, comment below, let's meet. I don't think you understand how pumped I am for this video. In this video, I'm going to be listing my top 20 TV and film of 2020. Just as a heads up, not all of the things on my list are actually from 2020. I just mean that I watched this stuff for the first time in 2020. This is just my opinions and my take on what my favorite things that I saw this year were. Hold up. First of all, you need to see my fit for the evening because obviously I do not wear this. Before anyone asks, yes, I am wearing 2 turtlenecks because this thing is kind of itchy. And these are these pants I love that I stole from my grandma's closet. Well, she gave them to me, I think. I don't really remember. Let's not argue about it. I felt like dressing up for you guys, so I actually did my makeup for the first time in a little while. You don't realize how excited I was to film this video. So let's get into it. Let's go. It's kind of hard to list things in order of like best to worst when they're completely different genres. So basically this is a generalized 1 through 20. Obviously my favorites will be at the top, but don't read too much into the order of things. That's all I want to say. Before we get started, when you see it, if you haven't watched it and you don't want spoilers, just skip ahead. Maybe I'll do a timestamp in the description box down below. Number 20, we have a kind of tie, although they are very different. The one thing they have in common is Nicole Kidman. We're gonna be talking and spoiling the Prom and the Undoing. So first I'm gonna get into the Prom. For the first 20 to 25 minutes of it, I was just like kind of tearing up the whole time. I mean, for this kind of movie to come out at the end of 2020, it just struck a chord with me. However cheesy and whatever it is, it just really had an impact on me because obviously this whole year Broadway has been dead. In this one song, I think Key sings it to Meryl Streep, basically saying you don't know the impact you have on people with your theater. And it just like, it just moves you, you know? I just miss that community and it just meant a lot. And the lyrics were amazingly catchy. There was a dodgeball scene while she was singing a song. One of the girls got her out and they just kept playing as if she wasn't out. Those are not the rules of dodgeball. Honestly, I don't even know why Nicole Kidman was in this in the first place. No shade on her because we're birthday twins. I feel like this movie was trying to like cancel out Cats and it kind of did. Now the world is kind of back in balance and that's why this is number 20 on my list. Now we are going to move into The Undoing. I don't think I liked this one as much as other white people seem to have liked it. First of all, when Hugh Grant came back after he had run away, I was like, ugh. Anytime he was in the series after he ran away, I was like, why is he here? So I'm basically watching this to find out if he actually did it. I don't really know what was going through Hugh Grant's head. I don't know how to break this down. I'm not a psychiatrist. What happens is every single person, this character played by Nicole Kidman, every single person she trusts is revealed to have lied to her at some point. Her husband obviously lied to her about cheating on her and murdering someone. Her son lied to her because he hid the weapon and he already knew about this woman. Her dad also lied to her about cheating on her mother, her deceased mother, for many, many, many times. And her best friend, also lied to her about trying to help her husband get out of a sticky situation at work. So literally everyone she trusts has lied to her. So I hate everyone. One thing I didn't understand is why did they make us question whether or not she did it? Because they kept showing these like flashes of like this girl being murdered, which obviously we have no idea who did it, but they made it seem like it was all in Nicole Kidman's head. So at the end I was kind of expecting something to be revealed about what's wrong with her mentally, like she has an issue. They played up the mysteriousness and stuff of it a little too much, which made my mind go in a completely different direction. Who freaking wrote this? You would not let the person you are pretty sure killed your wife into your apartment. The only reason this is actually on my list is for the suspense because I just had to know what actually happened. So that's why it's my number 20. Number 19 for me is going to be Selling Sunset. Selling Sunset is a reality show actually. I like it because it is I'm not very much into real estate stuff. So they show like just the right amount, like just a little dash of, they show the interior of the houses, they tell you how much it is and like everything. Very fascinating to me, but it's mostly about the drama between the girls. I quickly developed a guilty pleasure, an obsession, if you will. I love to hate a good villain, and Davina is just that. I try not to hate anybody, but Davina, like, she has follower written all over her, and it amazes me that anyone willingly hangs out with her. So that's why it's my number 19. Next up on my list is the movie Yesterday. So this movie Yesterday is actually from last year, 2019. He plays his guitar and he plays the song Yesterday. It's just so moving because they have never heard this song before because the Beatles don't exist. It made me tear up. Like, it gives me chills just thinking about it. You end up feeling like guilty with him because he feels guilty because they're not really his songs that he wrote, and like even Ed Sheeran is in this movie and he's like, wow, you're better than me, basically. But it turns out there are these two random other people in the world that also remember the Beatles, and you're like scared they're gonna like reveal his secret and stuff. They actually come up to him after one of his shows and they're like, thank you for playing their song so well. I'm like tearing up. The love of music is just really all you need. Love is all you need. That sounds so cheesy. I don't think I would be able to remember that many Beatles songs if, you know, if the pressure came down to it. It really gave me Love Actually vibes, which is funny because then I looked it up. It turns out it's the same writer that wrote the screenplay for Love Actually that wrote this screenplay. Moving on to number 17, The Circle. It is also a reality TV show. I also watched the reality show Love is Blind. Honestly, I did not enjoy it as much as this one. It was very entertaining for me. I just remember laughing a lot. I watched this very early on in 2020, so it was kind of like foreshadowing what quarantine would be like without actually knowing it, which I think is spot on. It was kind of like commenting on social media. It's kind of like a cross between Catfish and like, I don't know, Love is Blind, I guess. I don't know. Moving on to number 16, Never Have I Ever. It is a TV series on Netflix. I really like that the main character is so hot-headed. She was also in a wheelchair, but they never really like talk about what that's about. I didn't like the characterization of her friends. I thought they were playing on the stereotypes a bit too much. Overall, I thought it was a great coming-of-age high school story, but it wasn't like the best out there. Next on my list, I have The Morning Show. This was one of the first that I watched in the beginning of this year, so I don't really remember a whole lot. It's a very real situation. Like, this happened with the Ellen Show. I just freaking love Jennifer Aniston. It's an interesting position she's put in because he was basically her best friend every morning, and then all the stuff comes to light about him, and she is the one on the news. She's like right in this middle position, and she's just struggling with what to do about it, I guess. Reese Witherspoon is good too. They were kind of those two actresses are kind of a funny pairing in my mind. So they played that really well. Again, I don't really remember what happened in the last episode, but I just remember really not wanting to see his face as the last shot. Number 14, next on my list, is All American. This was like the perfect sportsy, angsty teen drama. Like, perfect. The sister of the kid of the, I don't even know. Spencer James is the main character. He's a high schooler played by Daniel Ezra, which, you're telling me he's British? Like, I would not have known at all that he's British. It's just an interesting watch. Next on my list is Cheer. You just get completely sucked into this world of cheerleading. They kind of follow certain cheerleaders' stories, like backstories of where they come from and like the struggles they've been through and stuff. You're just mesmerized by the level of skill they all have and the sheer dedication. Like, this is their life. I felt it with them, you know? I felt like the intensity of winning, but being so close to not. Next up, we have number 12, Into the Unknown, the docuseries. This docuseries brought me to tears. Obviously, I have the foresight of having seen Frozen 2 and like I know it was a hit. Just seeing them go through all the steps and like working together, and it was very anxiety inducing. In the show, they had a panel with a bunch of the writers and creatives from a bunch of other Disney movies, and they had them all watch like the first screening of Frozen 2 and then give their thoughts and opinions on it. At least a couple of them on the table had said this, that they had no idea what was going on plot-wise, especially with Elsa in the end. Honestly, I don't think they ever fixed that because I didn't get that in the movie either. The music in this already gave me the chills. Haha, Frozen. But seeing and hearing it being created like right in front of you is a whole nother thing. And also you get to see the actors and like the musicians get together for the first time and stuff, and it just gives you chills, you know? It's just so cool. It's just magical. What else can you say? Next on my list is an animated series. It is, of course, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, I have already seen this in my childhood as it came out in, I believe, 2005. It came back to Netflix this year, which is why I watched it. It was like the perfect feel-good comeback series of 2020. If you don't know what the show is, like, get with it. So I'm really into astrology, and one of my favorite astrologers actually came up with like what all the signs of all the characters would be. Aang is the Avatar. He's the main character of the series. She said his sun moon rising combo is my sun moon rising combo, and I was like, I absolutely relate to Aang. Like, I feel like we have so much in common. You know how Harry Potter has the houses? You can be a Gryffindor, Ravenclaw. It's like the same thing. You can be different elements. It allows for a great fan base is what I'm basically saying. I think all of the characters are fully fleshed out. They all have amazing backstories. The writing was phenomenal. What can I say? And I love the cabbage guy. He's amazing. And then also this show was great because it allowed for Legend of Korra. Legend of Korra follows like the next Avatar. Ooh, we've got number 10. Number 10 is The Office. Before you judge me, I'm sorry. What, like, what do you want me to say? I'm sorry I never watched it before this year. I know a lot of people will be like, Parks and Rec is better. I'll get to watching that when I get to it. But this year, I binged The Office. I'm talking about the US version, of course. I haven't seen the UK version, I'm sorry. The only reason I watched this was actually because I read Jenna Fisher's acting book, and it made me want to watch her act in this. So I did. Of course, absolutely love the style that was like documentary filmed, you know. I thought all of the actors were so perfect for their role, and they also fit so well together. You would actually think that they worked in an office together. I actually go into more detail about this in another video of mine because that's like real time when I was watching the finale, and I thought that would be interesting. I could go on for days. I could go on and on for days. Can you hear that I'm losing my voice? Oh my god. Why am I drinking coffee at 5 p.m? This is the part where I start to get really excited talking about the shows I love, because these shows are like, oh. Number 9 is The Umbrella Academy. I binge watched The Umbrella Academy season 1 and season 2 together. Season 1 was all fun and games until Vanya started becoming like a killer machine, and that turned really dark really fast. Here is the biggest, this is the biggest hole in the plot. In literally episode 1, 43 women go into labor randomly who weren't pregnant beforehand. It is never said once in season 1 or 2 what the frick happened to the other 36 of them, because these 7 kids all have like superpowers. You're telling me the world just doesn't notice the other 36 of them until you bring it up at the very finale of season 2? You can't just kind of leave that big hole in the plot. My favorite character by far, is this a surprise? It's Klaus. He is the best character. I'm always rooting for him. Number 5, he's really believable. So season 2, it's a nice change, but it's really hard to figure out what the heck is happening for the rest of this season. The only redeeming quality season 2 has is the comedy from Luther. He's just really funny in season 2 for some reason. I don't really know why, but I absolutely love it, so good job. I want to see them follow Master Hargreaves. Even if the characters don't know who the heck their dad is and like his past and stuff, can you tell the audience? Because I would really like to know, and it's like really painful to watch. Okay, next up is number 8. This is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Technically, I'm breaking the rule for this one because I have already seen all of the seasons. I just had to add it because it's just such a great series that I love. Actually, season 3 kind of sucked, but that's besides the point. Season 1 of this is obviously the best. The costumes are to die for. I think season 2 is when they have this whole part where they're in the Catskills. The highlight for me is seeing Susie carry around a plunger. It's just so funny. And whoever that actor is who plays the character who goes like crisscross. So funny. I absolutely love the dynamic of her family, and the timing is so precise, especially Abe, who is the dad, and he's played by Tony Shalhoub. I didn't love when they went to Paris. I mean, I liked when the mom went to Paris because it made her happy, but then it wasn't justified why she just up and left because her husband told her they belong in New York. In season 3, kind of towards the end, Lenny Bruce, he takes Midge out for dinner, and I'm like, finally it's happening, because they have this great chemistry, and it's just beautifully romantic scene. I mean this, and they're dancing together and it makes me want to cry. The way he looks at her, pure love and respect. Any scene that Joel is in, I just really do not care for. Again, on that same vein, I absolutely love Jane Lynch, but anything having to do with Sophie Lennon, that whole subplot, I absolutely hate. This is actually really funny. I started watching season 1 with my ex. He literally stopped watching it right as Midge started to bomb on stage. And it's so funny because in season 3, Midge is doing an act in Vegas, and in her stand-up comedy act, she literally says, women are not allowed to fail. I mean, it's put into a joke form, but I just found that so ironic, especially the beginning of season 1. Like, it just reminds you what a strong, independent woman you are, at least for me, so I just really appreciate that about it. Number 7, we have Athlete A. Here's a little trigger warning, sexual abuse, so don't watch this if that is going to trigger you. Before watching this documentary, I really only had heard about the abuse and the arrest of the USA Olympics doctor. And I learned a lot in this documentary about everything surrounding this whole story. Not only other people who were in positions where they abused these young gymnasts, but there were different kinds of abuse. One of the gymnasts, Maggie Nichols, she came out about her abuse, and then she told this coach, and instead of going to the police, this coach told this other head person. Instead of going to the police, they went to the president, Steve Penny, who was later arrested, tampering with evidence, lied to the parents and the girl, Maggie Nichols, and said that the FBI was investigating it and that they shouldn't say anything or do anything because it would ruin the FBI's investigation. Nobody was investigating. Nothing was happening. He's a freaking liar. He was emailing back and forth with Dr. Larry Nassar trying to cover stuff up. It was also really shocking to find out how much I didn't know about this. I didn't realize that like little kids weren't always gymnasts because like I was born in the late 90s and like I did gymnastics when I was a kid. It was just a thing that kids have always been doing gymnastics and stuff. It was hard to watch, but it was really important. So I definitely recommend watching if you can. Okay, next up, shocker, number 6 is the movie Parasite. Now, this movie was actually released last year, 2019. Great film, obviously won Best Movie. I was rooting for this family from the beginning. You see the housekeeper come back, and it's like this inner dilemma that you have because I'm rooting for the family, but they also kicked her out and her husband are struggling. They are pit against each other, which should not be the case at all. It's very stressful. I mean, obviously you enjoy seeing this poor family feed off of this rich family, like who wouldn't love to see that? But I knew it was going downhill when the son started being all lovey-dovey with their daughter. He knows his best friend likes her, and now all of a sudden he's entering a relationship with her. I just knew it was all going downhill from there. The husband from the rich family comes over to pick up his keys from the dad holding his dying daughter. As he does that, he like holds his nose. If you've seen it, obviously it's really powerful image. And then I knew he was gonna get stabbed. I wanted him to get stabbed for that. Number 5, Watchmen. Technically came out last year, but I, again, finished it this year. Honestly, I need to watch the whole thing back again because the timeline jumps here and there and there's so many puzzle pieces. It deals with the racial trauma of the past, but also it's going on in the present at the same time. So it's like, I think that's perfect for right now. Obviously, freaking Regina King is a badass, and I love her little main character like song that plays every time she does something badass. There's parts I don't understand. There's this crazy scientist lady with her little clone. Then there's Adrian Veidt, and then there's this blue guy. Like, there's so much. But the last shot, the last shot was brilliant. Number 4, Unorthodox. It's based on a novel, actually, by Deborah Feldman, based on the Satmar community of Hasidic Jews in Brooklyn. It's a very interesting look into the way that that kind of community lives their life. The most standout performance, in my opinion, besides obviously her, was her husband. His name is Yankee, and he's played by Amit Rahavas. His performance was just so raw and truthful to me. You really believed that he believed in all of this, and it was just so innocent. I actually watched this, well, it was like 20-25 minutes about like the making of the movie. This was right after the war happened. So you have this really traumatized generation of Jews who formed this really strict community. And there's a phrase that Esty says where she says, we're trying to make up for the 6 million lost. So basically it's all about like childbearing, family. You really feel her fear and anxiety. There's so much she doesn't know about the world because she's been trapped in this community for her whole life up until now. Also, there's a really hot guy. I wish there was more depth here. Otherwise, like, why did they include him? This is the first time she's ever been with anyone other than her husband. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense for me. Next up, this movie is from 2017. It is Call Me By Your Name. I don't know why I haven't watched this movie before. I can't help but compare this movie to Carol. Along with Carol, I fell in love with the music from that soundtrack before I actually watched the movie, which is really funny. The main part where it differs is that this movie doesn't rush. It takes its own time. It's natural. There's such a magnetic chemistry. It's not forced. It's just naturally a little awkward here and there. It's like a realistic kind of love story, but I don't want to even call it a love story because it just happens. And the silences and the pauses, it just breathes life into it. There's this one scene, it's like this climactic point in the movie. It's a scene where Elio and Oliver are kind of standing they're on the other sides of a statue or something, and they kind of dance around the subject of like, we're gay and we like each other, but they don't actually say that. Obviously, the last shot of this film with Elio looking into the fire, like tears streaming down his face. At least I think there were tears. Maybe they were my tears. Okay, we're down to the last two. Number 2, The Queen's Gambit. I freaking loved this show so much. Anya Taylor-Joy, she was so enticing, it almost made me want to learn how to play chess. It seems like it would be boring, but it's so not. Oh, it's so not. An old janitor in the basement, you're automatically suspicious. It's like a pedophile murder kind of thing waiting to happen, you know, but it doesn't. The one part in this show that I think I cried, he has just died and they go to his funeral. She goes to the basement where they used to play together and she sees this whole board of like all of the articles about her winning in tournaments and stuff, and you just see that like she was his greatest achievement, and it just breaks your heart. Like, I'm tearing up right now. I wish there was more about her best friend Jolene from the orphanage, because like literally they're best friends, and then as soon as she's adopted, like she's just not in communication with her. There's this handsome guy named Towns. She really likes him. Like, she has this huge crush on him. I didn't get the implication that he was gay. He's like gone for the rest of the series, and then he comes back and like they're the best of friends, and it makes no sense to me. Basically, it's very enticing. Like, you're just rooting for her. You want her to win against the Russians. Last but not least is my number 1, Euphoria. One thing that makes me uncomfortable is there was just so much nudity. I know that's pretty typical for HBO shows. I mean, obviously all the actors are over 18, but they're supposed to be high schoolers. I feel like it'd be more on the nose for college kids. I don't know why everyone has to be underage. That definitely wasn't my experience in high school. I don't know. I also freaking love a good carnival scene, and they did not disappoint. As soon as they mentioned that there was a carnival in this show, I was like, oh yes, sign me up. So the main character is played by Zendaya. Her name is Rue. She has narrative going on while you're watching. I just love the way that they did that because it makes you want to know what's happening in the future even more. You really feel for her and you like her. And it's really hard to watch someone that you love spiral like that. I really like how raw it is in terms of the look into the lives of Gen Z. There are, I'm sure, kids going through a lot of the same things all these kids are going through. My favorite subplot is with Kat. She gives off main character vibes. She gets into camming and it makes her super confident and she becomes like comfortable in her own body and stuff. But at the same time, she pushes away like a real love connection. And I really like how it ended with her character. One character that I'm just like, what the heck is the point of this, is Rue's so-called best friend. I don't even know why she's there. Like, I feel bad for her, but I really have no idea what her freaking story is. Why would she be sticking around with the way that people treat her? Now that I've lost my voice, that's my top 20 TV and film of 2020. Please leave your comments. I'd love to find out what your favorites are. If there's a show or movie that I missed, like, tell me about it. I'll go watch it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. I will see you guys in my next video, which is going to be, I believe my next video is all about the regrets of 2020 and my New Year's resolutions. I lost my voice. I have to go. So bye. Have a great week, everybody.